Hey, welcome back to the show. It is, I almost said Monday. It's such a habit. It's a Friday episode, July 2nd, 2021. Seeing how you're doing before the weekend. It's episode 55. Rainy one here. So if you hear something booming in the background, that's not my career. Right? That is a thunderstorm. It has not stopped raining probably for like 2 weeks. But I got an inflatable raft, so I am ready if it's time to build an ark. Whatever. Wasn't Noah a drunk, Noah's Ark? God was like, hey man, you're gonna be the guy that builds the ark. He's like, well, I'm pretty hammered. And he's like, okay, speaking of hammers, we're gonna need you to build something because I'm gonna flood the earth, and I'm gonna pick you as the guy, the town drunk, to tell everyone that the earth is going to flood. No one listened to him. That's the whole story. And that's the thing about homeless people or drunk people. Like, most of the time, they're right. You know, if this guy was like, hey, dude, if your neighbor, if your drunk neighbor just starts building a cruise ship out of wood, wouldn't you believe him? Especially with the price of lumber. Like, hey, man, how are you affording all of this wood? How are you able to bring... He's like, yeah, I got to get 2 of every species. He's got, like, rhinos hanging out. They're all loading up on the ark. You know, down at the local restaurant, they were like, hey, I think Noah is telling the truth. Everyone's like, man, fuck that drunk. Then all of a sudden it just starts flooding, and he's like, peace! Just dips with all these animals. Probably tossing Bud Light cans off at the side. He's like, I told you, fuckers. Y'all didn't want to listen. I love it. Dude, like, in Los Angeles, there's this guy right before you get on I-4. That was, like, one of the main highways there. He had like a huge like display of just cardboard. That's the thing about LA. Like, you can set up, it's perfect for being homeless. It's never going to rain. So you can have all your cardboard signs. You can have an RV with no roof. Whatever you want to live in. Go for it. You're not paying taxes. That's the thing. It's like a hack. It is cheaper to be homeless in California. Probably an easier lifestyle at that point. But this guy had like a huge, I want to say a catalog of cardboard, but it was just all this stuff about 9/11. And I would like stop at the red light. And even if the light turned green, I'm like still trying to read it. Because I'm like, this guy's right. You know? It was like 2 planes, 4 buildings. You do the math. I'm like, yeah, it's fucking right. You tell him. I'm like, just no one's going to take you crazy because you don't have any socks. That's the thing. It's like if you have a guy that, well, no one even believes like professionals. Everyone's like, trust the science, trust the doctors. And all these doctors came out during the quote unquote pandemic. And then everyone's like, fuck that guy. We want to listen to Fauci. Anyway, don't get me started. Speaking of all that stuff, SEAN MADDEN stand-up is the new Instagram. I know I've said that before. I'm going to keep saying it. If you follow me at SEAN MADDEN Comedy, that account is kind of finished. So we'll be over there. Said too much about things that you're not allowed to say. Buzzwords. It's not even people that like cancel you. It's like they tell the AI, they're like, hey, if any human types this in, flag their account. And the robot's like, will do. Did you guys see the I don't know, it was going around. It was a video. It was in China or Japan. It was one of those places where everyone has black hair and the letters aren't letters. They're symbols. So, one of the Asian countries. But a robot, I don't know what the point of the robot is. Maybe it's like a mall greeter that just says like arigato or whatever hi is. And it just, the robot just went down the escalator and just clipped like 2 people at the bottom. Heavy ass robot, like a vending machine with a smiley face. It was like, fuck it, I'm advanced, and it just hit the escalator, went straight down, clipped 2 people at the bottom, And the most fucked up part is you're watching this and you're laughing, and then you're like, wait a second, someone at the top of the escalator filmed this. And like didn't even say like, hey, heads up, there's a fucking robot coming. Nothing. Just like probably just smirking going, this is about to go viral. So, but I love that. I think AI is going to hit artificial intelligence, not Allen Iverson, for you people listening. AI. It was like, AI is going to what? He's going to hit a three-pointer? He's coming off the bench? He's coming out of retirement? No, AI, dude, the robots. We'll see some shit go down first. Because they said once artificial intelligence gets so intelligent that it becomes conscious, I don't know if that's possible. I'm not an AI scientist. I didn't go to MIT. All right, never even been to Boston. But, yeah, if they get so advanced that they just, like, if you have let's say, like, a robot that makes sure your kids take a bath. You know, I think it was a cartoon I saw, but it was like the robot was, like, all finished. And he, like, drowned the kids because he just didn't know. You know, it's kind of dark. But I feel like if something does happen like that, like Terminator style, it'll come out of an Asian country first. Because they love robots, dude. They love them. They got robots in cities now that deliver food. So I guess it, like, eliminates the delivery driver. You don't need Alfonso in the Prius anymore. You just put it in the robot's chest. Dude, we ordered food, Gary, Lindsay, and I, out in LA, and just a robot pulled up. And you pull the food out, and then when you close the lid, it just goes down the street on the sidewalk. And it's like dystopian because they have videos of them. Just type it in like food delivery in like these cities now. Like type in like robot food delivery. Something like that. But dude, it's crazy because it's like the robot is just running over like the corner of like a homeless person's tent. And you're just like, what a dystopian nightmare. It's like the future. It's like we have all this technology, but like it doesn't fix anything. It just creates more problems. And then we have to create more shit to take care of those problems. It's kind of hilarious, actually. Just like I don't know, it's like a boat that just keeps getting holes in it. And like eventually we're going to run out of fingers. If that makes sense. I don't know. I've been smoking this weed that I got, but it like doesn't, you don't feel high, but then you're like, wait a second, am I? It's like you're right on the fence. You know? It's like you're taunting Border Patrol. You're looking down going like, I'm technically not in the country, but I'm on the fence. That's how I feel about this weed. Speaking of Border Patrol, I don't know if you watch the YouTube, you probably see you got the lighting fixed. I got like this massive like LED light. I was just using like a bulb, but now I'm like staring right into it like an idiot. Yeah, it's just, we're well lit in here. That's all I'm saying. Okay. Jesus, get on with the show, Sean. All right. About 10 minutes in here. I was watching this thing it's called Citizen Bio. It's this documentary. It's about biohacking, which I knew this was kind of going on, but like this documentary really opened my eyes with this stuff. So basically it's about this guy, Aaron Trawick, who in the beginning they're saying like, this guy was so smart, this and that. So immediately you're like, oh, this guy's dead. You know, so it's about this guy, Aaron Trawick. He grew up in Alabama. He was adopted. Kind of got he's got like long black hair. He's like a guy where you're like, you ever seen someone like they're like dirty, but they're a genius? Like just kind of like the guy's like, yeah, I don't have time to fix my teeth or comb my hair. I'm a genius. Like that kind of guy. Like, I'm so smart. I don't care. I don't care what you think of me or how I look because you don't know how to fucking alter DNA. Like that's the kind of guy. Like Elon Musk. Like, you could make fun of how slow he speaks, but he's like, bitch, I have rockets. That kind of thing. So this guy, Aaron Treywick, he grew up in Alabama. He had, like, his grandma had diabetes. And he was saying, like, oh, if I could just figure out, if I could figure out a cure on my own. So he, like, after college, he went to, like, South America. And he was hanging out with, like, all these village people and, people that know, like, real medicine, like shamans and stuff. And, like, oh, crush this turmeric and this, put a little pepper, and boom, that's the cure to this and that. And then all of a sudden, like, it goes from that, this guy, like, it shows photos of him from being in like, South America. All of a sudden, he's in D.C., Washington, D.C., suited up, and his cousin, this one girl, is like, yeah, I brought him to D.C. and to work for me, and then all of a sudden, this guy's just a millionaire. So I don't know who he cured. I don't know what senator, I don't know what pedophile senator he cured. Fixed his eyesight or whatever, got paid a bunch of money. So all of a sudden, this guy's like a DC millionaire. And I'm like, all right, I'm still on board. This guy wants to cure stuff. Maybe I'm like bouncing around. I suck at, like, explaining stuff that I've watched. I'm trying to get better at that on audio, because you can't really, like, see what I'm doing. But so this guy, bear with me here. Holy shit. Maybe this weed is good. I don't know. But the whole point is, like, why would I wait? Why would I wait for the FDA, the government, the whatever, all the red tape, all the bullshit? He's like, if everyone in the world could make their own medicine from home and cure whatever problem they had, like, that was this guy's goal. So I'm like, this is fucking cool. I'm like, this is awesome. Why wait? Why would you take a prescription when you could mix baking soda, shit like that. So now you got the pharma. Once you start doing this, then you got the pharmaceutical industry. Whenever you go after someone's money, anytime a guy's like, hey, I came up with a car that gets 1,000 miles to the gallon. They're like, oh, cool. Look over there. Pew, pew. Then they say he committed suicide with 6 gunshot wounds to the back of the head. So yeah, this guy, they said he drowned in a float tank in Washington, D.C., which is obviously like a hit job. It's kind of hard to drown in a foot of water. It's one of those things where you just lay on your back and you lose all your sensory, I don't know, it's supposed to help you. It's like a form of meditation. But anyway, he drowned in one of those little pools. But the guy in the beginning, one of his friends that he worked with in the lab, kept saying the reason why he was such a target is because he kept using the C word. And I was like, what does that mean? And apparently it was cure. So if you say, like, oh, this is a cure, that's when the pharmaceutical companies are like, hey, can we assassinate this guy? Because we don't like that word. We need customers, not cures. So this guy was doing all this stuff. He was talking about, apparently you can buy a DNA. It's called a CRISPR. It's a terrible name for it, but you can essentially just alter your DNA like a computer. They say, like, oh, your DNA is just basically like a computer code. So you can alter it. And then one guy, he made like an HIV cure, and he just injected it right into his stomach. Just like insane shit. And I'm like, all right, I'm still on board. All right, with the dark blood money of Washington, D.C., however he got that, however he acquired that wealth, I'm still on board. I'm on board with the people curing themselves. I think that's cool. I think if you're smart enough to do that shit, I mean, why not? But then all of a sudden, it just cut to everyone who had like a lab. So they're interviewing these biohackers. That's what they're calling them. And this guy was like, yeah, I got a hold of Aaron, and like anything I needed, he sent it to me. So he's like, I needed this machine for $200,000. Boom. Now it's in my garage. So everyone had like all these scientists. They're not like, I guess they are scientists, but they're not like a scientist where they have like where they can point to the wall behind them and go, look, see that degree? It wasn't like that. It was like a scientist because they knew how to do shit regardless of whatever certification they had. So, dude, there was like some shithole shacks in like Mississippi, and then they opened the garage, and it just looks like fucking Jimmy Neutron's hanging out in there. It had like all these blinking lights and just weird fucking machines and syringes, and there would be like a bike on the wall and like a saw. And it was like, it was literally like someone's garage, but it had all this like advanced like DNA altering, just crazy shit. Just made me think like you could be driving down the street in one of these towns and like the house across the street's a meth lab, and the house across the street from that, you know, they're making super soldiers next to a rusted out bike. But yeah, dude, this shit was wild. And then it cut to a scene. I'm still on board. This is where they lost me. It cut to another quote unquote lab, which was in someone's backyard, and it just had people like waiting in folding chairs, like it was like some shitty, you know, 4th of July party. And they were like next, and they were just calling people into a room, and they were just modifying people's bodies. Like just some guy's like, excuse me, I just burped right in the mic. Guy was like, yeah, I got a USB port in my ass. So he's like, I can always charge my phone. And I'm like, well, wait a second. They're like, oh, this is the other side of biohacking. Some people are going, well, look, we're curing stuff and we're helping humanity. And then you have the other people that are going, well, we're doing the same thing. I have speakers in my forehead. And then they're like, well, no, that's not. They go, that's a body mod, not a body hack. So it's kind of like, I don't know, I guess some beef or some confusion in that industry. But, dude, it was weird. Some girl was getting like, she's like, I don't like, she's like, my AirPods keep falling out of my ear, so we're just going to sew them in. And she was getting like a speaker. You know that fat part of your ear right before, like right outside the earlobe? She got headphones put in there. It was like speakers. One guy got, he had all kinds of like remote controls in his fingers, and he could start his motorcycle by like snapping his fingers. I don't know. It was just weird shit, dude. That's when I get a little weird. Once you start putting stuff in you. Dude, it's a wild documentary. I would definitely recommend it. But they definitely whacked this guy. You know, it's one of those things where it's gonna be like coronavirus. I think like everything we went through in 2020, it's gonna come out in 10 years. It's gonna be on some streaming service. Oh, 2020 pandemic, and you're gonna click on it. It's gonna be like 100,000 people watch it, and then no one gives a shit, because in this country, especially after 14 days, no one gives a shit anymore. You know, it's like that happened 2 weeks ago. We're on the new shit now. Okay. What do they got? The Delta variant now? They got the American Airline one. Southwest variant. All right. That's longer than I thought. We got some Florida man news. Let's get into it here.
In Florida has its water tower back tonight after accidentally selling it. The man who bought it says he wanted to buy the warehouse right next to the tower. The city says a paperwork error included the tower in that purchase. Some in the city call it an honest mistake, but others are not so forgiving.
And then they just shrug and say, oh, we're human, we made a mistake. That's a pretty darn big mistake when you sell off a public utility.
I think when we are doing things like this, it's important to really pay attention.
She's not.
So this guy bought a tiny piece of shit. Like, I don't even want to say a warehouse. It's a 2-car garage with a door on it. And it's right underneath a water tower. And so he bought it for like 50 grand, this little shack. And he wants to build a gym because he's like, oh, there's not really any gyms in this area that are worth going to. So he's like, I'm going to redo this whole place and just make it good. So he drops $55,000 on this shack, and apparently in the paperwork, someone missed it. It came with a damn water tower. The entire city of Brooksville, Florida. They just sold him the water tower. And the guy gave it back. He's like, oh, it was an honest mistake. And dude, I don't know. What would you do if you bought a warehouse for a gym and now you also have the city's water supply? Dude, this guy could have came up. This guy could have put the billboard for his gym on the water tower. Could have called it like Tower Fitness or something. And then I would have just started a water bottle company. I would have used glass bottles because I'm not a monster. But dude, I would have called it Brooksville Water, and I would have just been selling it back to the people. I'd be like the most hated man in the town. But then you move. I mean, that's how most people make their money. They destroy wherever they came from, and then they move. They make an entirely new set of friends. Especially in other countries. They're like, oh, we'll blow up my entire village, pollute the lake, and then we will move to Manhattan, where we can hide all that money. So yeah, dude, this guy just bought a water tower. They had a funny video of the guy actually talking. But dude, people were pissed. They're like, we're bringing this up at the next town hall meeting. One of the guys' names, dude, it's such funny names. No, none of the townspeople wanted to go on do the interview, of course. They were so embarrassed. They had, where is it? Dude, the names are hysterical. A small Florida town's error resulted in one man temporarily receiving a free gift with his purchase, the town's water tower. This guy, Bobby Reed, approached them in April about buying a small business and garage under the tower, so it's basically like where they keep all the water tower shit, extra pipes, wrenches. And he's like, yeah, this is a perfect place for a gym. He got a water tower. He said, I immediately went through the necessary steps to give the tower back. Dude, I'd have had to make a deal. I go, look, I'm going to give you guys this water tower back, but I'm going to be fucking growing and cooking. I'm going to be growing weed and cooking meth in this shack, so don't come knocking. All right? I'm going to be trapping out under this water tower. Giving you guys back the damn... Whose mistake was that? It was this guy named where the fuck is his name? So many ads on these news. It's like no wonder news is failing. It's like you can't even read the shit. Stories worth knowing. Subscribe. $4.99. No, I'm good. This guy Cotner. What a great name. Kutney. We're human, said Cotner. Sometimes we make a mistake. That's what the guy said. The guy that gave him the water tower. We're human. What the fuck? That's what he's going to be saying at the town hall meeting. Cotner, you need to be fired, man. You sold us. You almost sold the damn water tower. He goes, hey, motherfucker, we're human. All right? Why don't you come be the fucking town paperwork person? Whatever the fuck. Oh, good shit, man. Well, it was nice of him to give it back, but I would have definitely made some kind of backdoor deal. Like, hey, I'm going to give you this back, but you're going to have to name a street after me. Something, dude. That's a come up, bro. Especially now. This guy's gym looks like... I'm sure it's going to look nice, but, dude, I might put a picture up if I ever feel like editing the video version. But, dude, it looks rough. This little shack that he bought for $55,000. I'm like, that's kind of a good deal in a warehouse. And then they show you a picture of it, and you're like, oh... Ooh, they ripped him off. Probably that's why it was $55,000, because it came with the water tower. Like, that's probably why. No one knows what's going on. I didn't even know where Brooksville was. I looked it up and I'm like, oh yeah, it makes sense. It's kind of like, it's in the part of Florida, so they call like the middle of the country flyover states. But there's a lot of states that have like, not flyover regions, but definitely drive-through regions. Like there's people are like, oh, Florida's so crowded. I'm like, no, it's not. Dude, go just drive from like Tampa to Miami and just see how there's absolutely nothing on the drive over there. To the point where, like, if you got a flat tire, like when I drove through Texas to California, like Arizona, New Mexico, bro, you blow a tire, your fucking hawk starts circling. You're like, oh shit, I gotta start digging a hole, find some water, cut a rattlesnake in half, start eating it. It was wild out there, dude. Did that with a 2003 Saturn with 150,000 miles. Just fucking went for it. You know? Because at least they'll say, like, oh, he, you know, most people go to California and don't make it. They're like, he didn't even make it. He didn't even make it out there. Fucking Saturn just exploded. God, I love the guy that sold that car to me, too. The freaking Russian used car dealership in Sarasota. I know I might have said this before on the show, but, dude, he just kept pushing. So the Saturn, like, everything but the hood is made of plastic. And you could literally push the door in, and the whole argument with that car, that was the number one selling feature. Not that it's good on gas or, you know, that it has leather seats. Like, none of that. Not ice cold AC. That's what everybody puts. Ice cold AC. It's like, yeah, it's what air conditioning is supposed to be. No, the selling point in this car was that it doesn't dent. He's like, my friend, it is made of plastic. Plastique. I'm like, okay. It's probably a bad Russian accent, but I'm not feeling the accents. Didn't have time to warm up. Sorry. Yeah, he's like, it's plastic, dude. It's $4,000. It's plastic. I'm like, all right, let's do it. What were we talking about here? We got a final story here, and then we'll get out of here. Good little episode here today. Sorry for all the stumbling and bumbling in the middle. It's kind of all over the place. But, yeah, we got some... If you haven't listened to the last episode, or if you have, little context, Nancy and I met at a restaurant in New York, and I kind of just cut that episode right into... when we started talking about some of the what would you say, patrons, they call them, of the bar. Talked about this guy, Paul. He was a crazy dude. Forget what else we talked about. But yeah, just kind of talked about the restaurant. It was a fun little episode. It's always fun to have Nance on, just talk about some old shit. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Oh, we have an Olympic hopeful blames failed drug test on a pork burrito. So I love how they say Olympic hopeful. It's like, yeah, you could say that about anything. I'm an Olympic hopeful. Yeah, I'm a millionaire hopeful. Some white kid wearing Jordans. He is an African American hopeful. Hopefully one day he can get some melanin. Here we go. So yeah, she apparently tested positive for an anabolic steroid, and then she blamed it on a pork burrito from Mexico, which you can. That's what's cool, is because they just load up all the pork over there with like roids, the chicken. And so she just said she had a pork burrito, which is a great excuse, because if you're just like if you're obviously on steroids and you go, hey, I had a pork burrito from a food truck, at least that kind of saves face a little bit. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Oh, I also saw they found how like none of the supplements you get at GNC are like regulated, or most of them aren't. And some of them have roids there. So like if you're like an MMA fighter or any kind of athlete and you're taking like a protein powder and you're like, man, this shit's really working, I'm getting huge. Probably because it has roids in it. But yeah, we'll leave it right there. At Sean Madden Stand Up on Instagram. Sean Madden on YouTube. If you guys like the show, it really helps to leave a review. Click 5 stars or 4. I don't give a shit. Thumbs up on the YouTube. I'm putting stuff on there. I got new bits, comedy, stand-up material that I put on the YouTube. Sean Madden Stand Up is going to have a bunch of new sketches, so if you like that stuff, that'll be on there as well. And yeah, that'll do it for episode 55. We will see you next time.
You want to smoke something?
You've seen him perform all over LA. Give it up for Sean Madden, everybody.
What have we got here? A fucking comedian.
This joke's not gonna go well.